Ladies and gentlemen, I cover a lot of topics on this channel, but certainly the most recurring topic by far is Magnus Carlsen. But you can't really blame me because nobody plays chess as well and nobody is as popular. Now, I leave Magnus alone when he's not playing in tournaments, but today I woke up and I saw that he had played and won another tournament, a tournament that I didn't know existed, I didn't know was being live streamed, and I don't think any of you knew about it either. So I'm going to cover it. It's over. It was a one-day tournament. It was an esports tournament, and it was held in Southeast Asia, in Bangkok, in Thailand. So that's what we're going to do. He played a bunch of Grandmasters, and he beat all of them. That's just like normal stuff, you know? We wake up on a random Saturday, and the best player in the world, who just had a pretty forgettable tournament in Norway, beat a bunch of really good players. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to watch Magnus win against a bunch of really good chess players for like half an hour and see how he does it. Okay, first game. He's playing against Jose Martinez, who obviously is Jospim. This is a very famous chess player. This is a Queen's Gambit declined. All normal. And Jose plays the most aggressive way in the beginning, but really this is not that aggressive. It's just going to trade a bunch of pieces. Magnus takes this pawn. Black takes with the bishop. White now has many choices, but he chooses to take like this, and Jose decides to take with the knight. And this leads to a position where white is just about to get castled, but black could potentially throw a little wrench into the wheels there. Bishop b4 check, knight to d2. Now, if black had any more pieces, this could potentially be problematic because you would need more defenders on this knight when you castle. But if black plays something like queen a5, Magnus is just going to play a3, and he's going to happily trade all those pieces. And it's important to note that this position is just very comfortably better for white, to the point of nearly +1. Why? White has the bishop pair, so white has the dominant dark squared attacker. White is going to get a rook to the open file faster, and black has a weak, isolated pawn. Now, this pawn, when you have a pawn that has no neighbors in front of a queen, it's called IQP, isolated queen's pawn. And generally, the player with it wants to simplify that pawn down, build around it, etc. What happens in this game is Jose plays d4, because he wants to trade the pawn. Magnus plays e4, and now this pawn is like shockingly in the way of the black pieces. Just by putting it here, white will then play a3, stopping anything from going to b4. He's going to put his bishop back, and he's going to push this pawn forward and just get an immediately better position. And that's fascinating. It's fascinating that at the highest level of the game, one pawn push, just one small change in the structure of the position, leads white immediately to having an advantage. Now, bishop e6, a3 is played instantly. Now the knight cannot go to b4. h3 is a move I can't really understand. I guess he was maybe trying to go bishop h2, although even now, white could play e5 straight away, just immediately getting an advantage, launching an attack potentially. But Magnus makes a couple more improving moves, bishop g3, f4, and white is just much better because the pieces just cannot cross into white's territory. White now controls the pawn play entirely. White has ideas like queen h5, f5, e5, f6, at which point white will just win. That will be a completely winning position. Jose now needs to act. He plays f5, but this changes everything. This is now a protected pass pawn, a pawn that is not being stopped by any opposing pawns to go to the end. It's only being blocked by pieces. And now it's just about repositioning the pieces over here. Jose plays queen d7, bishop f2, queen e2. Jose jumps in with his knight. Magnus is more than happy to remove that knight, trades the rooks, and plays queen h5, attacking this pawn. Now, Jose plays a very nice defensive move, bishop c2, so defending from the other side. Queen f3, and now black needed to play a little bit more accurately. He goes bishop b3, Magnus goes for this line, and here, apparently, it's equal if and only if black plays d3 and just totally invests in the pawn, like somehow supporting it, and apparently it's such a problem that white can't just eat all the pawns. But Jose actually loses the game in like 3 moves from this position, which just goes to show you that humans are not computers. Like as a human, you feel, oh, I'm down a pawn, I'm going to lose this, and I'm going to be down 3 pawns, and I go here, and immediately the game is just lost. Rook c1, Magnus takes on e7, and Jose resigns because he doesn't have a perpetual check. The king is just going to run. But it's kind of incredible because had Jose gone d3, I mean, obviously he thought he was just losing everything here, but d2 is like, it's fine. And even though white can get this, there is queen d3 with the threat of both taking the rook and promoting in 1 move. And white has to play very accurately not to lose the game here. Rook d1 runs into rook c1, where black is winning. Black is just straight up winning this position. So Jose needed to find d3, d2, and queen d3. And Magnus wins. He picks up a nice win here in this battle. And that was game number 1 of the placement stage. And then he had to play the local Southeast Asian hero Tining Yao, who I have played many times online. Then he had to play Liam Le from Vietnam. Then he had to play Andrei Yesipenko, the candidate. I don't know what Magnus Carlsen was doing at this tournament, by the way. Like, I don't know if there was a prize fund. My only explanation is he got a really nice hotel room in Bangkok, and he got a lot of money to play this, because he doesn't just do this for fun. He could just... Nobody travels thousands and thousands of miles to play chess if they can just play it on their phone. So, we're going to look at these 2 games. Tining Yao. Magnus this time playing ready Nimso Larsen with b3. Okay, he plays a double fianchetto. d3, castles, castles, and now knight c3. This is a very modern twist. Historically, white has always played knight bd2. Knight c3, though, is the move chosen in this game with the idea to play e4. Black just plays bishop h7 to avoid getting whacked. And now knight d2. I mean, you can get away with anything in 10-minute chess, and Magnus is still the best player in the world with 10 minutes on the clock and not 2 hours. He's probably still the best player in the world in classical chess, but in Norway, he really struggled. Knight bd7, he gets e4. Black apparently had to go c5. So the computer really wanted c5. I don't know why Tining Yao didn't go for this. Probably he didn't remember all of the details of the position. So instead he puts the knight more passive and plays e5. But now this combo of pieces being set up is inaccurate. Because the knight is going to be limited with its movement. This bishop is going to be blocked out of the game. Like, I wouldn't even be surprised if you can play f3 and completely block out this bishop, although the computer wants f4. So Magnus goes queen e2, and Magnus actually agrees with me because a little while later, he plays f3, and, I mean, really, he is just playing to wall out this bishop from the game. Even though the computer, again, wants f4. It wants to actually keep the position more open. I have a feeling the idea of f4 in the future is kind of to play f5. It's to lock out the bishop, but do it in a more aggressive way than f3. Of course, if f4, you do have to grapple with this, and I don't think that's very human to open up the position, so Magnus plays it the way, you know, I would play it, which is either really good for me or really terrible for him. Now he's basically saying my bishop dominates your bishop. It's much better. Knight b6, knight back to e3, knight back to d1. I mean, I have no explanation for what he is doing. The knight goes to f2. He's going to put a rook on this file. He's going to move his king up at some point, probably. He trades the rooks, repositions the knight, and trades. Nobody quite understands chess the way this guy does. Like, this knight there, that knight repositioning to d3, just like a little horsey dance like this. And white is just better. This bishop is bad. This knight is bad. So these 2 pieces not really participating. Happy to trade off those 2 pieces because black is still left with a bishop that is not participating in the game. Rook goes back to d8, and Magnus just manages to pick up a pawn in the skirmish, making it look easy against a very experienced grandmaster. Queen e3, improving the queen to a much better diagonal. Black going for some counterplay. Magnus is just happy to take the pawn. He doesn't even care that it opens up the king. He's 2 pawns up now. He's making his opponent kind of bluff here. Rook e1. I don't know why the rook goes to e1. I don't know. Probably he wants to expand in the future. Rook e8. Queen back to f2. He's going to look for that queen trade. Finally, the king has made a move forward. Black looking for a little counterplay. We're looking for a queen trade, no queen trade, knight f4. And just that is exactly why the rook was on e1. This dude put the rook on e1 because he didn't want to get hit with anything on the d file so that he could move his knight and then play rook e2 at the right moment. How did he know that the rook needed to be on e1 5 moves ago? I will never be able to explain these things to you. Everything is protected in the white position. Now the queen comes back, the queen gets booted, he trades e5, and there's a little bit of stress here around the white king. It's a little weak, but here comes the endgame domination. Bishop b5, bishop c4 check. Look at this repositioning. Excellent repositioning of the bishop, and white is just winning. He brings every piece forward. Black goes for a little counterplay, but he's not going to get it. Rook a6, rook takes, rook check, picks up the pawn, and this is easy. Magnus Carlsen has been winning endgames like this since he was like 3 years old. Frankly, since he was in the womb. The pawn promotes, the rook is there to support it. I mean, this is a typical Magnus game. Like, from the opening, we get some weird imbalanced game. We have him completely playing against his opponent's pieces. He walled out this bishop, and it just never participated. It just never took part in the game as Magnus danced around the board, picked up a couple of pieces, stopped the counterplay, took on g6 finally, repositioned the bishop beautifully with, to the c4 square. The king walked up. The king ended up participating. He broke through with his rook. Now, with black, it's not as easy to get such simple games, but let's see Nimso Indian. One of the easiest lines to play nowadays is to put the bishop on b4, take the knight, and then play b6, bishop b7. I have a course on the Dutch defense. I think the Dutch defense played with bishop b4, bishop takes knight is one of the shortcuts to getting to like 1800 in chess. I'm talking to the 5% of you right now that have ever made it there, statistically speaking. And if you're the 95%, the Dutch is really one of these things. The Dutch is just, there's a pawn on f5, and I like it because you have more control of the center. And nobody knows how to take advantage of the Dutch, at amateur level. This is one of the best ways to play for white, but generally, the knight doesn't go there so early. I actually think the knight goes to h3. With the knight here, it's less good. So there are lines where if you play this setup like this, there's bishop d3 and then f3. Yeah, this is actually a real system. And this control of the center for white is shockingly effective. Then this knight goes to e2 or even to h3. But if you have the knight on e2 first, now white's setup is kind of messed up because you can't get the bishop out. And Magnus immediately takes advantage of this. h5, h4. He loves this stuff, man. Like, and nowadays, when you're given 2 hours, you don't get to exploit this stuff as easily. But in a rapid format to play on structure, look at this. He's trading the dark squared bishop. Like, what is this setup? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pawns on dark squares. You're going to trade the dark squared bishop so that your dark squares are intact and your bishop is not as good. And then white is going to be left with a bunch of light squares blocking his own piece. So he goes there. Queen f6 now played from Magnus. It's a locked structure. Tining Yao goes here because if he doesn't, black is going to go here. White is never going to move a pawn again. So he goes c5. Knight back to b7. This is really like the expert, the master of the dojo, just humiliating the opponent. And I'm not saying white is doing anything like dumb, but he's dancing around with these pieces in such an unorthodox fashion. He locks down the position. He moves the king. He doesn't even need to castle. White goes to c6. Rook. This doesn't look normal. Why is the knight here? Why is the rook there? What are these pieces doing? Yet it's -1. Black is just dominating because all the pieces in the long run are going to be more effective than their counterparts. Do you know what the best move in the position is here? If Magnus played this move, he should have been drug tested then and there. h3. The best move in the position is h3. Because if you take the rook, I take, then you lose this and this and this. And the whole position just disintegrates on the left side of the board. Like rook g1, queen f3. If you go queen a8, there's just king e7. Everything is defended, and white should just resign in a moment. Magnus doesn't play h3, he goes back to a7, but it doesn't really matter because he gets a total bind on the position, and remember, white has to win the game. He does his best. He fights really hard, but it's just not good enough because if you take here, bishop f1 is absolutely disgusting. g4 played, h takes g3, g2, bishop h2 check, g1 queen, queen g2 mate. Yo, what? Instant replay. We just had a relatively balanced game. Then the opponent did this. Magnus sacrificed his rook so that his bishop could fly to the end of the board to checkmate the white king. He took en passant. Then he went g2, and it looks like white has saved everything. He sacks the bishop, promotes the pawn into being taken, and mates with the bishop on f1. I mean, pack it up. 3 brilliant moves in the last 5 moves. The last 5 moves to win this game. Now, after this, Magnus played against Liem. Magnus won this game purely on aura. Aura is a Generation Alpha term, all right? It's been resurfaced. Everybody knew what aura was, but over the last few years, aura has resurfaced amongst the young population. You say L aura, W aura, gaining aura, losing aura. For any of my fellow millennials that might not be, tuned into the internet, Magnus won this game purely on aura. I would like to show you what I mean. So we have a Queen's Gambit declined against a very experienced Vietnamese Grandmaster Liem, who's actually a World Blitz champion. Liem plays a very good opening, very solid. Magnus goes for a kingside attack. Liem's like, dude, I have no idea what you're doing. He just wins his pawn. Magnus takes. Liem now, in this position, can just play queen takes f5. It looks like you can't because there's a fork here. There's a counter to this, which is taking the knight. And if this, bishop f4, Liem's just going to win back the queen and be a comfortable pawn up. So, first of all, Magnus is just losing here, but Liem plays this way. Allows Magnus to do this. Still, Liem is just up a pawn. 7 pawns to 6. Okay? Magnus goes king b1, Liem goes rook e6, Magnus plays a3. I mean, bro, when you're playing king b1, a3, you're out of ideas. I think on the next move, he's going to go king a2 or something. He trades the rooks, king a2. He's out of ideas. He doesn't have any plan. Black has some minor weaknesses near the king. Now watch as Black, a very experienced grandmaster, just falls into the Norwegian whirlpool. King g7. Rook c1. h6. Knight to d1. Knight e3. Little repositioning of the knight. King f8. Rook comes forward. Suddenly there's some counterplay. So he has to move his queen back. All of a sudden, you don't have an easy way to protect this pawn. What am I talking about? Why do you even have to defend the pawn? Well, if you go queen g6, I'm going to go here. And it's like, okay, and I'm going to defend myself. Yeah, and then I'm going to like maybe trade the queen with you. And then I'm maybe going to go knight f5. And then I'm going to take the bishop and go here. And if you go b6, I'm going to go here. It's like, suddenly you're really passive. Like, how did that... Knight f5, I'm going to win a pawn back. How is Magnus outplaying his opponent down a pawn? And it's about to get a whole lot worse. There is not going to be an endgame in this game. Liem goes here. Magnus goes f4. Liem goes here. Magnus goes here. Liem takes. Knight f5. Queen f6 back. And when I say white wins this game on aura alone, it looks like black should just be taking over. He should just go d3. But he goes here. And this one pawn move launching some counterplay into the black position. Potentially. It's nothing even there. Liam goes here, allows the knight to go back to a square it had no access, goes d2, and suddenly black's pieces are all in the corner. Why are black's pieces in the corner? 10 moves ago, it was just black comfortably up a pawn with the more active set of pieces. How did we go from this to 10 moves later, all 3 pieces are just on the last 3 squares? I am telling you, this man won this game on aura, purely on aura. G5 comes in, Liam is gonna get checkmated. That was never part of the script. How is he getting checkmated? King G7, queen takes, the only pawn that he had is gone. Queen G2, bro, the king is about to get laddered. He's gonna get laddered. Bishop takes G5, queen H2 check, rook H4. Black has no moves. How did this man take his opponent's 4 pieces and put them like a Tetris piece on the edge of the board? Nobody can do this to other people. Nobody. Knight F6, rook G4, the game is over. Rook G8 is mate. If you take, you lose the bishop, you lose everything. In a span of 20 moves, this man went from down a pawn with no plan to the opponent's pieces standing like a Tetris block. I wasn't joking. I don't have an explanation for how he won this game. Aura. That's all it is. Next game with the black pieces. So this time, again, remember, you win 1. You just have to not lose the next game. So this game, Magnus just has to keep it chill, not get a position down a pawn, you know, and he's going to do that. He's going to reposition his knight, bishop f8. Liam is going to have to attack him. And Liam might be up to the task. He's going for it. But Magnus is first on the queen side, and he got there. Now white is going to have to lose material or trade a bunch of pieces. He's going to go for the lose material route. And now it's going to be like, can Magnus create enough counterplay against the position here? Knight b4, bishop back to b1, queen h4, like full board awareness. Liam goes e5. He's just trying to attack. Magnus trying to liquidate. The knight comes in. He trades. But this pawn just has an escort down to the edge of the board, and white's time is ticking. If the pawn goes down, white is going to have to lose material. So he goes knight f5, take. We're 2 squares away from queening. G3, we're just coming back. Liam has sacrificed material to go for the mate. I don't even have to take it. I am now 1 square away from promoting. So you have to move your queen. Knight takes, bishop G5. F6 was actually not the best move. I think you needed to play queen C5 here, but it doesn't really matter. As Magnus gets this down to an endgame, rook E8, nice move, picks this up, and you are just not going to lose this position. G4, nice move, and really Magnus is killing off the game here, looking for the draw, and he's going to get it. He is winning, though, and pawn takes F3. Queen G2 is mate. Just easy. Really, just making it look straightforward against some of the best players in the world. Here he's playing a candidate. He's got the white pieces in this game. Wins this game with 97% accuracy. Just a day in the office. Just invite Magnus to Southeast Asia to beat up a bunch of grandmasters. Doesn't have the drive to play classical chess anymore. Doesn't have the opening repertoire, you know. But yeah, invite him to a tournament where basically the time is like 30 minutes or shorter against anybody. He's going to win. Absolutely no problem. Another Queen's Gambit declined. Another exchange Queen's Gambit declined. Let's see what Yesipenko has in store. Yesipenko played this variation in the candidates tournament with success, neutralized a lot of his opponents. Similar position to the Jose Martinez game. Anybody remember this position? This? Knight on d2. Honestly, it looks very similar. If d4 is played, white is going to go e4, just like in that game. So in this game, Yesipenko's going to wait a little bit. Magnus is still going to try to get some blockade here. Nice idea, b4 you can't take because I play a3. Bishop g5 targeting the knight. And now b5 removing the stability from the center of the board. And here's the moment. Yesipenko has managed to fulfill the destiny of the isolated queen's pawn. He's actually secured the right way to play. And if e4, d3. So Magnus has to take. So we are going to have an open board. This is a very chaotic board. where the side with the bishops is going to want to win the majority battle for the territory. Like, it's a board played on open squares. There's open squares everywhere. So how do you play this? Bishop c5. Rook d1, we're looking to trade one of the rooks to relieve a little bit of the pressure, but here comes the other rook. Queen c1. Where's the play? Where do the knights go? Nice move from Yesipenko, keeping his pieces very well coordinated. a4. Looking to potentially expand. Bishop d4, just taking a little space, passing the move back with 2 seconds. Queen d2, repositions to e5, hits the knight. It's hanging. a5. Okay, so you can't take the knight because the queen is hanging. Queen c5. But the queen walks directly into the line of sight of the rook. And this little sequence where the queen is able to go there is bad because now we have pressure on this side and knight e4 coming to deflect the knight away from the defense of this knight. All Magnus did was take a little bit of space against these two pawns, and he's hitting them, and it's not easy to protect them. If you play b6, I immediately get in with my bishop, and I'm crisscross applesaucing here. So, queen b3, hitting b7, hitting b5. Problem is, it doesn't work. If you take on b5, I'm just going to go to c6 anyway. So, bishop takes g3, pawn takes, queen takes, and Magnus is there, hitting the knight to the rook. This is there. King is actually very safe, and he has a 2-on-1 majority. Open board, relatively balanced position. 5 moves later, the black position, totally ruined. Yesipenko gets a little close, but he's going to go down material here. The queen hangs, and there's nowhere to move the queen where it could continue to attack, where it can defend the bishop. It can go here, but then there's rook c8 check, bishop h6 check. Gorgeous move. If king comes out, of course you take the knight. You might even have a mate there, I don't know, but you just take the knight. And if queen h6, you deflect the king from the defense of the queen. So if this, queen d7 is winning. Is it winning? Or is it a draw? Actually, queen d7 is a draw. Queen d7 is a draw because there's queen e1. So I was right. You're not going to take this. You're going to go for something else. You're probably going to go rook c1, rook f1, try to checkmate the king in the center of the board. What ends up happening is bishop h6, king f6. Oh, that actually is exactly what happens. Queen d6 check. King has no escape back. Rook f1. Game over. But it wouldn't be a Magnus Carlsen tournament without a little drama. You thought he would show up to Southeast Asia and win every single game. So did I. But Yesipenko is a candidate. Yesipenko is a person who has defeated Magnus on the biggest stage before. And in this game, the second game, it was a Sicilian. a6, a3. It was a con-Sicilian with this line a3. It's some sort of modern cutting-edge idea. b5 was played. And Magnus from the opening actually equalized right here. Had Magnus played the move g5, he would have equalized the position immediately because he would have deflected one of the pieces from the defense of the center. Or if the bishop went back, he would have went bishop g7 and picked up the pawn on the next move. And the position would have been sharp, but he would have equalized. Instead, he went here, and Andre was like, what? Now your knight is going to get pushed back like this, and you're in a lot of trouble here. Magnus here should probably develop his bishop and maybe castle and wait a little bit. Instead, he tries to solve his problems immediately, clearly with the idea to jump into the center of the board here somehow. But this just doesn't work because there's f4, takes, and long castle. He might have blundered long castle. I don't know. You know, he might have only looked at rook d1 and just forgotten that his opponent can castle. He probably thought he was walling out this bishop. Yesipenko castles and just, well, actually, he missed a chance. He could have sacrificed his rook. If he watched my content, he would have sacrificed it. But still, the position is very tough to defend. And he just goes in on this king. Look at this move, king b1. What a classy move. King here in the middle of the battle. And there is just nothing. Like, the king is in the middle. Queen c3. Yesipenko beats up the black king. Queen a4. No escape. You got to walk here. Knight f6 check. And this would be the end. And that would be the end of the game. And, yeah, just total domination. Absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing win. And he gets the job done. Okay, that takes us to the Armageddon. The Armageddon, knight f3, d5. We have a ready. It's 5 minutes versus 4. You already know the drill of the Armageddon. In the Armageddon, if black draws, black wins the matchup. And white has an extra minute to counterbalance that. So Magnus goes bishop e3, queenless middle game against one of the best positional players in the world. h6. Knight back to e1, repositioning the knight, similar to the Jose game. No, the Tining Yao game with the knight reroute. Immediately jumps in to d5, pressuring on the black position. Knight d3, looking for knight c5. And now you can just expand on the queen side with b and c. f4, also that. Pawn takes, pawn takes. You can still expand on the queen side. Okay, we're going to play in the middle. Yesipenko has gotten very close, but he trades incorrectly here, like this. Rook to d7, and Magnus doesn't miss an opportunity. Immediately goes to the f-file. The bishop comes back. The bishop is hit. It's got nowhere to run. It goes here. e6 is the move. Rook f2 would have been a little bit better, but e6 is on the board. Rook e1 defending himself. It's getting as close as possible to equalizing for Andrei. Knight f5. Magnus is a pawn down in an endgame, but he manages to get this pawn back, and he's just got this majority to work with, this 2-on-3 situation on that side of the board. And here we go. Bishop a6, bishop a7, the pawns are falling. The pawns are going to move a4, a5, a6. It's unstoppable. Andrei looking for a little bit of counterplay, a sign of life, but it's just 2-on-0. And it's Magnus doing Magnus things. Bishop. Andrei here was pre-moving. He would have lost on time anyway, but, you know, obviously he needed to go here. Magnus was still winning. He was going to win this position quite comfortably. And that is how Magnus showed up on a random Saturday in June 2026 and won a tournament that I didn't know happened until it finished the day that it happened. So there you go. Doesn't have a great performance in Norway chess. Absolutely dominant against some of the best players in the world. What more can you ask for? I'm going to shout out a couple things here. If you're watching still, on Chessly, my educational platform, we're doing a World Cup challenge during the World Cup. So we've got a bunch of skins, rewards, cool stuff there. You should definitely check it out. That's all I have for you today. Get out of here.